installment. Berlusconi condemned to win. Sam Blair. Sam, thanks for stopping by. And you know what? I'm going to be honest with you. My biggest understanding of Premier Football is watching the Apple TV show. So I really am intrigued at how you're going to educate me today and talk about this story, but also specifically enough football or soccer as we know it in the United States. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Yeah, I mean, it's a really important piece of soccer history for sure. From Berlusconi, part of his power was the way he revolutionized soccer in Europe, in Italy in the 1980s and 90s. Um, where this story gets really fascinating is where that then collides with politics. So there's a lot of layers to it. But yeah, I guess in any country we understand the power of sport.
Yeah.
That's really what it's about. He Berlusconi understood the emotional power of sport, I think, and how he could mm, kind of win hearts and minds and influence people with that power.
Now you think, and this is so true. This sport is gigantic, absolutely gigantic. $1 billion industry beyond belief. At that time, it was not, right? So he's kind of building into this growth of soccer, especially at that
Yeah,
time period.
yeah, he really saw ahead the potential of soccer to be marketed in that way. There was a very kind of old-fashioned attitude towards soccer in Europe. In Italy, the game was really mired with problems with corruption, with kind of negative play. And he said the game had to be exciting. He wanted the best players in the world, and he wanted it to be a kind of an entertainment, really, which of course it is. And it feels remarkable now to think it wasn't that in the same way. So he saw that potential, the connection between soccer and television, the way it's broadcast, the way it's talked about, the image of the game, and then the way it's played. He really wanted this style of soccer that was appealing, attractive, exciting. Um, and that's, yeah, if you think about European soccer in the late 80s into the 90s, this is a huge turning point for the game.
Oh, absolutely. And kind of define how these clubs work and how these superstar clubs like AC Milan, how would you compare that to some sport in the United States?
I'm not an expert on US sports, but I think it's this connection between sport and business, you could say, and the power that these clubs end up having, the status they hold in our cultures. They in England, for example, where I am, soccer clubs were very local things that were local businessmen and very working class people grew these clubs, and they're now owned by nation states and oligarchs. And there's been this huge transformation in the status, the symbol of a soccer club. Um, and that was certainly true with Berlusconi. As his business empire was growing, he saw AC Milan as a chance I guess, to kind of stamp himself on Italian culture. I think if a business person wants to, I guess, step into the spotlight more, sport is a great way to do that.
I would kind of look at this specifically enough in a different way because you're looking at clubs and the fact that there's not really a salary cap, right? With clubs. Is that true or
Well,
false?
well, they're trying now to control the money that's in soccer. In England, for example, yeah, there's an attempt to make it to have a financial fair play, as they call it, because the huge disparity between the wealth of the owner of a club and the other clubs, and that was part of Berlusconi's revolution, was that he spent huge amounts of money on the best players in the world, and that was people people want to see that. That's box office. But obviously, is it fair? And do we want sports to be fair, or do we want to see these superpowers
Yes.
that emerge? and be
Well,
enthralled by their power.
they have to look at specifically enough salary caps initiated in the NFL, NBA, NHL versus Major League Baseball, where certain teams will never win.
Right.
And you see the powerful teams, but the only difference is you sometimes see a team come out of the woodwork that doesn't have the salaries. Do you see that in soccer as well, where a team that doesn't have as many high profile players beats that team?
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly the case with soccer. In Europe, you've got particularly England, but and beyond, you've got the elite clubs who it's kind of a miracle if one of them doesn't win the league each year. Yet somehow we keep watching.
And it goes back to the brand. The brand
Right.
of AC Milan, the brand that brand, and you said that Berlusconi, basically, in a lot of ways, was a had a lot of different. Really looking at his rise and things is looking at some of these NFL owners or certain owners of companies and CEOs that rose to the top yet didn't do always the best ethical things through that process.
Right. I mean, where I think Berlusconi is unique is that he stepped from being a soccer club owner to becoming the leader of the country. That's a
Yeah.
I can't think of many other stories like any other stories like
I
that.
think that
And
you could only look at as sorry to interrupt. It would be the Celebrity Apprentice with Donald Trump. Did Donald Trump becoming president of the United States? So in a way,
yeah,
but different industry.
there- there's a similarity in that cult of personality, and the idea of being a winner, of being a success, being a kind of core principle of the way he presents himself politically, and that's 100% what Berlusconi did. He said to Italy, "I'm a winner. I've proved with Milan that I can be successful. Let's make Italy successful in the same way." And that seduced people. That narrative, that rhetoric was seductive, but obviously the world is more complicated than that. Which is what we discover.
100%. And it's just that I don't know if you could ever see, but power in so many ways. Watching this documentary, you're going to see power. You're going to see how soccer rose to the point now where even in the United States, club soccer is huge, isn't it? It really
Yeah, I mean
is. Uh,
that's yeah. The product has become sort of it's insatiable, really, the appetite for it. And like I said, these clubs that were kind of small local things are now internationally known brands, institutions. Um, yeah, and yeah, Berlusconi, as I said, is a key person in lighting that spark that we're now seeing today.
All right. So it premieres tomorrow on ESPN app and ESPN2 at 7 p.m. Eastern on September 16th tomorrow. Appreciate it, Sam. You gave me an education, even though I'm really interested. I love studying people, how they grew to power and how they
Well,
use their influence. Because if you're an entrepreneur or you're somebody that's trying to grow your brand, you need to watch certain documentaries like this to see what was the way how he rose to becoming this great leader in certain ways, but other ways, it all leads to power. What does power do? Corrupt us in certain ways. But appreciate it, sir.
that's it. Yeah,
All
it's a
right.
great summary. Thank you.
All right. You're listening and watching.